Good day, everyone. This is Rita Choi again. I'm so excited to see all of you here. So I'm the founder of ACHLM. ACHLM is an international organization for human resources practitioners to stay ahead of the curve, keep abreast of the latest HR information trends and best practices. Recently, we have started a series of webinars on challenges faced by leaders, HR leaders in Hong Kong. And today, I'm so glad that I have invited an inspirational leader, inspirational executive coach, and also an HR leader. And he's going to talk about a topic which is very special. Especially in a way that, because in my survey, a lot of HR leaders have expressed that we need to work on staff engagement. But what he's telling us is different. We should stop focusing engagement and start here instead. And today I really look forward to what's meant by here. His name, and the speaker today is Charles Clawell. He is the former HR director of ESF Foundation in Hong Kong. So without further ado, I would love to invite Charles to speak on this wonderful topic. Charles?
Hey, Rita, thank you so much for having me today. It's great to partner with you on this event. So shall I just jump right into the content here?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. So what I want to first of all talk to people about is that employee engagement is really only an indicator of what's happening in an organization. And what people should be focusing on is the drivers of employee engagement, because employee engagement is merely a measurement. So I've got a lot of slides that we're going to go through, and please feel free to tell us where you're watching from, and also ask any questions you might have about any of the slides, and I will go back and clarify them if there's any particular questions. We did a survey within the last year, or I did a survey within the last year, where we talked about corporate clock speed, and we asked about 110 HR professionals. Most of them were Hong Kong based, but several of them were based across Asia, and they were all in senior HR leader roles. And we asked them, has corporate clock speed increased, decreased, or remained about the same post-pandemic? 54% of them said it had increased, 8% said it had decreased, and 38% said it was about the same. So increased corporate clock speed will cause ongoing stress and well-being issues, and that's one of the key drivers behind employee engagement. If things are moving too fast, then people are going to be more likely to burn out. So we then asked the question, to what degree do you believe the HR function is moving forward in your organization? And you can see here that 51% agree that they are moving forward, 22% not that much, 19% to a great degree. So we can see that almost, roughly 70% feel their HR function is moving forward. But one of the things I think is really important for people to understand, especially if you're any kind of regional role, is that as an HR professional, you are a net consumer, a net producer of value. So it's one of those situations, for example, when you need to update a report, or you need to get information from your regions or from the areas where you oversee. And you want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're providing more value and not constantly asking information or constantly asking for reports. So this is a key thing that I believe HR professionals need to focus on, being a net producer of value. So what are other drivers? So one driver is employee relations issues. According to HR Acuity from 2024, human resources managers spend 24 to 60% of their time trying to resolve workplace conflicts. So we asked the question, are people seeing this here in Hong Kong and across Asia in their roles? And you can see here that the 30% were saying that there was an increase in employee relation issues. 23% said there was an increase, but now it was starting to ease, a year after the pandemic kind of ended in Hong Kong. 8% said there was a decrease, and 39% said it was about the same. The point of this is that increased employee relations issues are usually a symptom of well-being or increased polarization, which we're seeing in the media every single day. We're seeing loggerheads, leaders going against leaders, and lots of conflict happening on the geopolitical scene. So the one thing I would say is you want to resolve issues quickly. Don't let employee relations issues linger, because that's very frustrating for employees. So we move on. The next question is well-being. This is a huge, huge issue for the global workforce. There are so many statistics out there that talk about employee well-being, and especially for Gen Z. So the United Nations estimates that the pandemic caused a 25 to 20% increase in the prevalence of depression and anxiety around the world. And this requires an empathetic leadership response. So we asked the question in our survey, to what degree do you think these types of mental well-being issues are prevalent? And we asked it of HR professionals for themselves, for their staff and their company, and for Hong Kong in general, or for the country that they were based in, whether it was across Asia or a couple of cities around the world, some in the US and some in Europe. So I've summarized the I've summarized the kind of to a degree results on the left here, and you can see that 72% to a degree or to a great degree or to a very great degree think that mental well-being issues are still prevalent. This was measured within the last year. 84% believe that it's still prevalent for people in their company, and 89% feel it's still prevalent for people in Hong Kong or from the country or city that they were reporting from. And what's interesting about this phenomenon is that there have been surveys done where people have identified, especially in Hong Kong, where people say, I'm okay, but you're not okay. And this survey represents that, where 72% are saying, yeah, to a degree, there are still mental well-being issues prevalent, but not as much for me as there are for you in Hong Kong in general, for example. But still, these are staggering statistics, and it emphasizes the importance of really focusing on well-being, and well-being is a driver of employee engagement. So the next question we asked is, what were the top slides or the top priorities that people had for practices in their company to support staff well-being? And I've identified the top three here. So I was surprised that 56% of companies had an employee assistance program, because a similar survey that we did in the middle of the pandemic, they didn't have an employee assistance program. Now a lot of companies do. Flexible work hours for staff was 55%. I was surprised that that wasn't a little bit higher, because that's just such an easy win for companies to have more flexible work hours. And then number three was well-being activities. So a lot of 53%. So a lot of companies were leaning into having on-site yoga, singing bowl, different types of events such as that to encourage their employees. And this also drives employee experience, and employee experience then gets measured through employee engagement. So another key takeaway on my message today is really focus on activities that highlight employee experience. Now, one of the things that will impact employee experience is what kind of a leader and manager that you have. And according to a recent survey by Life Meets Work Consulting, a staggering 56% of employees currently work under a toxic leader, contributing to a detrimental work atmosphere. Now, this survey was not taken in Hong Kong, although they did capture some global results. This is just, I just can't believe that we're still talking about and dealing with toxic leaders. And actually, if you look at the global model of leadership right now, you look at how much leaders have failed in one country, and it was not the United States, but if you go to the headlines for this week, you'll see that once again, a prime minister resigned, and in 2 years, they've had 5 prime ministers, and that country is really, really struggling to coalesce their population to surrender to leadership and to agree on what kind of leadership is going to lead the country. And, you know, that model of leadership, not being able to get along and work things out, doesn't help when people such as Gen Z are looking out to more mature leaders for how to lead and how to become a good manager and a good leader. So we asked the survey question, to what degree are you observing toxic or difficult leadership behaviors amongst your colleagues? Remember, this was over 110 senior HR professionals, predominantly based in Hong Kong, but a lot of them still across Asia in senior HR leaders roles, some of them in the US, North America, and some of them in Europe. 58% responded that they were observing toxic leadership behavior in their companies. And this will negatively impact psychological safety. This will negatively impact employee experience, and it'll show up in your employee engagement surveys. And this is an issue that really needs to be addressed. We then looked at, to what degree is empathetic leadership practiced in your organization? And this is a very, very busy slide, but what I've done is I've summarized the results here on the right-hand side in the yellow boxes. And you can come back and re-look at the live later and digest some of the statistics. Or if you like, you can contact Rita and I, and we can send you a PDF of the presentation. But basically, 60% of HR professionals felt that empathetic leadership was lacking, or awareness of it was lacking in their company. 95% of HR professionals said, yes, they're trying to practice empathetic leadership. That's great. Keep doing that. That's fantastic, because you can be the champions of empathetic leadership as HR professionals. And my company encourages empathetic leadership. Well, 23% don't really encourage it. So that means that 75 plus do, which is good, but still 23% don't. My company trains people in empathetic leadership. Well, 51% were not training. I think that's actually progress. That means that half are and half are not. And if you were to go back 10 years ago, probably empathetic leadership was not even on the radar screen. And then last was empathetic leadership is clearly visible in my company. So 37% are saying it's not visible. So there's some work to do there. Now, if we focus on the positive, it means that 73% are saying, yes, it is visible, or 63% are saying, yes, it is visible. So that's good. But you have to remember that that's still a large number, 30%, 7% saying it's not visible. So empathetic leadership is really the new superpower. 90% of US workers believe that empathetic leadership leads to higher job satisfaction and decreases employee turnover, according to a survey from Ernst & Young. Let's move on to AI. 41% of executives believe that the biggest productivity boost to their business is investing in AI. There's lots of statistics about this. This one comes from a Mercer survey that was done about a year ago. These numbers are just increasing. I developed a simple AI maturity model. Basically, in stage 1 and stage 2, it's all about awareness. Stage 1, you're just kind of becoming aware and learning about AI, and you're running workshops. Stage 2, you start working on agentic AI, where your company might be providing you with Copilot or Gemini or other tools in order for you to come up with a bespoke AI model that you can work and use as an individual. Stage 3 is when AI starts hitting business workflows. And what we discovered through the survey, and also through the Asia HRM survey that Rita hosted back in the beginning of August, is this survey here. We asked companies, what stage is your organization in or completed with adopting AI technology? So what this column on the right, 2025, shows you is where people are at now compared to where people thought they would be at a year ago. So a year ago, they were at 37% in terms of awareness, and their goal was to get to 54% in 2025. And stage 2, they were at 35%, and their goal was to get to 64%. So for stage 1, you can see that they hit 19%, but in stage 2, they hit 68%. So people were on target with giving individual tools to staff on how to use AI. But then there's a huge drop-off with stage 3. And people were at 28% in 2024. Those are companies, and they planned on being at 60%, 59%. A year later in 2025, that's what they reported a year ago, they were at 11%. So you can see that there's a huge drop off here between stage 2 and stage 3, 4, 5. And what's the big reason for the drop off? Well, the big reason is because, well, there's a lack of skills, but also because companies are learning that implementing AI workflows into existing workflows is heavy work and requires a lot of deep thinking. It might have a massive payoff once you do it, but it does require a lot of work. So here's the top 3 concerns. What is the biggest barrier to HR driving digital transformation in your company, AI or otherwise? Number 1, technical skill gaps. Number 2, lack of clear strategy. And number 3, resistance to change. So we come up to one of our final questions. I think this might be the last one here on the survey. To what degree are you concerned about your role as an HR professional based on the following scenarios? So again, a bit of a busy slide, but I've summarized it here on the right-hand side. So 72% of HR professionals are worried about well-being, worried about their well-being. 75% worried about their workload. Those two are closely tied together. 62% worried about job security. I don't think you need to worry about AI taking over your jobs. You only need to worry about not learning AI and then people who have learned AI taking over your job. 54% were worried about upward mobility in careers, but 31% were actually not worried about AI. which is actually quite positive. It means that you can be positive change agents. So all of this comes together in terms of well-being. So you need to look after yourself first as an HR professional. You can't pour from an empty cup. So put on your own oxygen mask first. And if you're okay, then you can help self, and then you can help others, then you can help global. And what this all comes down to is really pausing and reflecting. So how do you focus on employee experience, and how do you then impact the measurement of employee engagement? We create employee career value. One of the ways I've done that in the past is post-employment and entrance surveys. So not only just doing an exit survey when an employee leaves, but doing an entrance survey when they're 90 days or 180 days into the company, and asking the question, how are we measuring up to what your expectations were when you were interviewing with us? And post-employment is asking employees 6, 12, 18 months after they've left, how much of an impact, how much value did you get from working with our organization? And has that value benefited your career? Focus on well-being. This is the new silent epidemic. Very, very important. And one of the best ways to focus on well-being that I have seen practiced is really committing to training to mental health first aid. Train your employees in mental health first aid. It's not expensive. It has a huge positive impact, and it'll have a tremendous impact on employee experience, which has a knock-on effect on employee engagement. Recognize corporate clock speed and use technology to give your staff the time to slow down a little bit. So yes, technology is great. It'll speed things up, but slow it down. Embrace AI. The impact will be radical. And practice empathetic leadership. And employee engagement is only an indicator, but if you look at all the things that I've just talked about, then it will help you impact employee engagement, which is a measurement. And if they want to know more, Rita, one thing I would say is we've got a LinkedIn Live coming up in about an hour on my channel, on my LinkedIn. So people are welcome to go to my profile, connect with me, ask questions. And that's my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, Charles, can you put back the slide on pause and reflect? I think that one, I'm very interested in that one. Yeah. Let me maximize it. Yeah, I think I love your idea that we should do a survey when the staff has first started the company, right? Especially for the 90 days, and then when they leave the company, we usually have the exit survey. I think it helps a lot, especially on telling the management what the staff thought about the company when they started the company, and then and when they are about to leave the company, what will be the reason for them? What will be the comments that they have got for the company? So, have you got any data or statistics on the effectiveness of doing this kind of survey?
The entrance survey?
Yes, and also the exit survey. Yeah.
Yes. So the exit survey, I think most companies do. The entrance survey, yes, very good. In previous roles, when I've run this, and I've not just run it in one organization, I've run it in several organizations. But what we learn is we learn that there are certain systems that they've never been trained in, particularly around performance management. And that was really, really interesting. So nobody's actually taken the time to explain to them how a performance management system works within an organization. And different companies have different terms for performance management. So I'm just using that generically. And it also, another example was very simple things such as employee benefits, particularly post-pandemic, finding out that there are certain well-being benefits that are available to employees. And what that enabled us to do was to emphasize in the orientations, the onboarding sessions, that these tools were available or that these benefits were available. And then also reminding managers to tell their staff about it, or reminding leaders in their staff meetings to tell staff about it. And that was a great thing to do. The post-employment survey, the one thing about that is you may not get 100% engagement on that survey, but if you do send it out and you even get 30 or 40% response rate, it can be very, very powerful. And effectively, the big question asked is, how much value did you get from working with our organization, and has that value benefited your career after working for our organization? And if not, what could we have done differently to help you get more value?
Okay, very nice. Thank you, Charles. And then earlier you mentioned about you show us the model of AI maturity model, and I
Yes. You want
really
me to
love
go
that.
back to
And
that?
it, yeah, yeah, why not? Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. And then can you go to the next slide, showing the
Yes.
percentage of companies, the stage that they are at? So it seems that most of the organizations, right, um, participating in survey are on stage two. How are we going to
Yes.
move from stage two to stage three? Because it seems that there's a huge gap. Any advice that you can give us?
Well, I think that the next slide here is the areas to work on.
Mm-hmm,
So one of them would be technical skill gaps. So you need to make sure that you've got the right people working on the AI projects and that you
mm-hmm,
actually devote time and energy to skilling up those staff. And one of the things that's interesting is we're starting to see a big focus into learning and development. And a lot of companies are investing more in training their staff in AI skills because they recognize that going out and finding staff with AI skills is very tough. And they'd rather keep their existing skills and upskill them, existing staff and upskill them. So number one is technical skill gaps. You can focus on closing the skill gap. Number two is having a clear strategy. So there's no question that leaders are supporting AI. They are all behind, for the most part, leaders are supportive of AI and they see that it's important, just like the Mercer survey said. It's a thing that's going to impact business going forward and they want to embrace it. The problem is that after that point, it looks like there's not a lot of joined up thinking around having a clear strategy. So someone needs to, within the organization, needs to come together, put together a strategy on how you're going to implement different aspects of AI, and then make sure that you go back to leadership and that leadership gives you the buy-in and the support and the budget to implement AI. And then number three is resistance to change, which people are, we see the headlines every single day or once a week or so, every so often, about how people are worried that AI is going to replace their job and therefore their resistance to change. But I think what's really going to happen, Rita, is AI is not going to so much replace people's jobs, especially when you've got companies committed to upskilling staff on AI skills. What's going to happen is if they don't upskill on AI skills, they won't have AI skills, and then they're going to get replaced by someone who does have AI skills. So if you come back to how do you step from stage two to stage three, it's really focusing on having the plan and having the skills and and addressing the resistance to change that will take you from stage two to stage three. Another thing that will happen is companies will come up with a very, very innovative idea in stage five that might be proprietary. And they might think, oh my gosh, we could offer this to our clients and our customers, which is really cutting edge. And then they go off and they create a team that starts working on a very highly proprietary company only AI tool that will benefit the offering product or service that they offer to the customers, but they don't bring employees with them. And that creates a lot of resistance to change because if you look here at stage five, proprietary AI innovation organization unique, if employees are still back at stage two and suddenly someone comes out and says, hey, everybody, we've got this fantastic new AI tool to use with our customers, the staff are saying, well, hold on a second. They're probably not even aware they're in stage one or two, but they're just aware that they don't know a lot about AI. And then they get fearful and psychological safety gets compromised. So you need to bring people with you. Does that answer your question, Rita?
Yes, 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 absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great.
Can you go back to that pause and reflect? I really love that slide. It has made
Yes.
me to come up a lot of question on my mind. I understand that staff well-being, because I'm also an HR professional, right? I see the
Yes, you
value
are. A good one.
of developing or working on staff well-being, especially having a lot of wellness program and so on. But again, it's a kind of cost to the company. But how would you convince the management that it's something that we need to do? At the same time, they can measure the outcome.
Well, one thing is that it's just a no-brainer. There are so many statistics out there about well-being, and now post-pandemic, medicine is coming forward and saying that 10 to 15 years down the road, because of everything we went through during the pandemic, if people don't look after their well-being, it's going to manifest as a physical issue in terms of serious terminal issues down the road in 10, 15, 20 years. So I think the evidence is there to convince the managers. They just need to commit the time. Now, one thing that was really interesting was what one of your speakers at the Asia HRM conference talked about, a survey that was done within the last 1 to 2 years in the United States. And the survey measured the equivalent of spending millions of dollars on a well-being program in companies compared to having 2 meaningful career conversations that included a discussion about well-being per year with staff. And that's the area that is, I think, can be most effective for managers and leaders and companies to do, is to really make sure that managers and leaders know how to have a good, meaningful career conversation with their staff that includes a conversation about well-being. How are you doing? What do you need? Do you have the resources that you have? How can I support you? Is there anything I need to know about you and how you're doing? And they might get an answer that's professional, related to the job, or they might get an answer that says, yes, I need to leave on time every Thursday to pick up my daughter from her ballet activity, for example. And then the manager learns something unique and important, which is a well-being issue. If mom or a dad is stressed about picking up their daughter on time on a Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, then that's going to create a well-being issue if that's an ongoing grind, ongoing tension. So it's these hands-on conversations that I think are not costly, but have a huge impact. Yes, things such as well-being days, yoga, singing bowl, those are amazing and fantastic. But if companies are up against a tight budget, it doesn't cost anything to take a couple of lunches and train managers on how to have good, meaningful conversations that includes well-being. And the research would say that it makes a difference.
Yeah, Charles, actually, I can't agree with you more. I can remember a story about a little child saying that he doesn't mind his parents working long hours, but he does mind having his parents coming home with emotions. Mm-hmm. So we can see the importance of well-being, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's very nice. So Charles, I would love to see if we have any questions from our audience today.
Sure.
Let me see. Okay, apparently. Okay, so I really loved your sharing today. A lot of nugget of system, especially on this pause and reflect. I'm sure that a lot of HR professionals will really have to think about what have they done in the areas of human resources in terms of this empathetic leadership, AI, well-being development, and so on. So if we really want us to have only one takeaway from the session today, what would it be?
The one takeaway would be make sure that managers and leaders are having empathetic empathetic career conversations with their employees that includes well-being. And the other thing I just want to clear up, Rita, is that being an empathetic leader does not mean you're not firm. You can be a firm, empathetic leader and still make sure that you're empowering your staff to meet deadlines or to be flexible to support them on how to meet deadlines and still create a win-win. A lot of people think that empathetic leadership means being soft, and that's not the case. Empathetic leadership means caring about employees, and you can care about employees and still be productive.
Very true, very true. Okay, so that has concluded our session today. Thanks, Charles, for the wonderful input, and I really love your presentation. And
Thank
we'll
you,
carry
Rita.
on with our series of webinar, and the next one will be on Wednesday at our usual time, 12 o'clock. Okay, hope everybody enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Charles, again.
Thank you,
Yes,
Rita.
bye.
A pleasure to be here
Thank
today. Bye-bye, everybody.
you. Bye.